Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Ingrid Kennedy, the Executive Director of CERC, I welcome you to the 17th Annual Back to School Session, Part 2. What a difference the year makes. My name is Steve Proffitt, the Director for Special Education Programs and Instructional Design, and I look forward to being with all of you during today's session to support the work of the Bureau of Special Education. There is no doubt it takes a village, and that collaboration partnerships between many stakeholders across the state have been strategically established by Brian Klimkowitz, our Special Education Division Director, to carry out this critical work on behalf of our leaders, educators, families, and most importantly, our students with disabilities. It's truly a collaborative and team effort, and CERC is proud to be a part of this dynamic partnership. During the session today, if you have any questions, just please use the Q&A box instead of the chat box. That'll help us field the questions and keep the questions monitored. I would now like to introduce my awesome colleague at the Bureau, Jay Brown, who works closely with me to help support the leadership initiative. Jay?
Thanks, Steve. And good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Okay, so welcome back to our Back to School event 2020, Part 2. As Steve mentioned, my name is Jay Brown, and I'm with the Bureau of Special Education. As you know, today's Part 2 of our three-part Back to School event, and Part 1 occurred on September 16th with welcome back messages from Commissioner of Education Miguel Cardona and Special Education Division Director Brian Klimkowitz. Those sessions were recorded for those who were unable to attend, along with additional sessions expertly created by a number of my colleagues here at the department. All of those are available if you go to ctcerc.org/BTS20, so Back to School 20. So Part 2 is today. We'll enjoy a welcome message, several welcome messages by many of our partners, and then a great keynote message called Progress in the Time of COVID-19. Let's Make Lemonade from Dr. Francis Stetson. And of course, Part 3, which hasn't occurred yet, will involve special education topic discussions within your own regional CONCASE meetings, and will occur in this November, so next month. These will be opportunities for directors to share successes and continued challenges during the first months of the school year. And invitations will come from the points of contact for your region, so look for those. Now, before we get to our keynote topic, I'd like to introduce our Special Education State Division Director, Brian Klimkowitz, with some important updates. Next slide, Greg.
Thank you, Jay, and good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank Greg Glidden behind the scenes, and of course, Steve Proffitt and the entire CERC team led by Ingrid Kennedy. I so appreciate your support for this session and the entire Back to School initiative, as well as the work that we engage in collaboratively throughout the year. So good morning, special education leaders, and welcome to our session. Sending you virtual positive vibes this morning and well wishes. And first and foremost, I just wanted to thank you for your work and tireless efforts to support your students, families, your staff, educators, all in an effort to improve educational outcomes for the amazing students across our state. Change slide, please, Greg. You see before you the infamous CSDE photo directory. I think we all look wonderful. I won't mention some of the photos are a bit outdated and certainly pre-COVID photos, but nonetheless, I think we look great. I continue to be humbled and honored to be the Special Education Division Director at the Connecticut State Department of Education and represent the Bureau of Special Education. I'm so fortunate to have an amazing team of bright, experienced, knowledgeable consultants at the CSDE, and I'm excited to announce that we will be distributing an updated photo directory in the very near future, which will include our newest member of the BSE, Viviana Toure. Viviana joined our team on September 25th, so very new to the State Department, and will be part of our program improvement unit. Viviana brings a wealth of knowledge, experience, and to our team in special education, working with English learners, and turnaround activities within New York and Boston school systems. So welcome, Viviana. We'll have to find room for her there on that photo directory. Please, as always, don't hesitate to reach out to us for assistance, support, or any questions that you may have. Change slide, please. I'm happy to announce that Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center has been awarded the federal PTI grant and will be Connecticut's Parent Training Institute for the next several years. I certainly value CPAC's new leadership, Jane Hampton-Smith and Beth Reel, and our collective work together to inform parents and support districts with special education information and initiatives. I've had the opportunity to work with Jane when I was a director, and Jane was a consultant within CPAC, and I can tell you firsthand, she does tremendous and amazing work, and I know that her staff will reflect that as well. Jane, I know that you'd like to share a few words this morning, and congratulations.
Thank you, Brian. And hello, everyone. I did promise Brian I would only take 2 or 3 minutes, so I'm going to stick to that. What I most want people to know is that we are, although we have advocacy in our title, Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center, we are really, our identity is that of an information center. We are, as Brian said, funded under IDEA as a parent training and information center. And that is how we like people to conceive of us, because we're here primarily to help teams, families, and school staff work together. Our goal is a collaborative team to result in improved outcomes for students. So as a group, what you do and what we do really has the same goal, which is to improve outcomes for students. And we do that by providing training and information to families, but also to your staff. A lot of your staff come to our trainings, and a lot of you who know us and have worked with us for years bring trainings to your families and to your staff. We do in-service and pre-service for universities with parent panels and student panels. Our goal is to work collaboratively to the best end of our students, and we all have that same vision in mind. We want you to understand that as new leaders, Beth and I really want you to reach out to us. Let us know what challenges you're experiencing in the time of COVID, and ask us to work with you and to partner with you to improve engagement of your families and to empower them to be real partners in your child's education. So if you guys, you see our contact information on the slide, please don't hesitate to reach out. We can offer trainings, and all of our services are free to the families we serve. So thank you and have a great session.
Thanks, Jane. Change slide, please. I just wanted to say I appreciate CONCASE's ongoing collaboration and frequent communication. And at this moment, I would like to introduce Joe Lucivello, President of CONCASE, to share some words with you. Joe?
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the CONCASE Executive Board, I'd like to welcome you back to a new and most certainly unique year. As president, I'm encouraging all of you, if you haven't already, to become CONCASE members, which will give you access to both regional and state meetings, yearly conferences with Brian to discuss ongoing issues, as well as other conferences that we host during the year. Our annual leadership conference will be held next Thursday and Friday, the 15th and 16th of October. Both days will start at 9 o'clock. It's going to be a virtual conference this year, and you can sign up for it on our CONCASE website there, which you can see on the slide. We have provided 2 ways to pay this year, either by credit card or PayPal. We feel like that's probably the best way, and it gives people options to sign up and pay. We're very excited about our 2 presenters this year. On Thursday, Brian Mendler will be discussing how to motivate and manage hard-to-reach, uninterested, and disruptive students. And on Friday, Dr. Kimberly Cintron from Connecticut Behavioral Health will be discussing resources administrators, teachers, and staff can use to reduce anxiety and support students during the COVID-19 pandemic. Lastly, CONCASE will be conducting our mentoring program again this year to support new directors. This program will give new directors access to a veteran director currently working in a school district as a resource and/or mentor for the current school year. As you may or may not know, the State Department also has a mentoring program, and we encourage that program as well. And there is no restrictions in regards to which one you could use. You could be in both. You could use one, whatever one you're more comfortable with. We are working with Brian in the state on that, and we encourage all new directors to get as much support as you can, especially during the year we're in right now. You're going to need as much support as you can get. So we encourage that. Reach out to us, reach out to Brian, and we will get you someone as soon as we can. With that said, we look forward to all of you joining us next week at our conference, and I wish all of you a safe and successful school year. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Joe. Change slide, please. I just wanted to share a few supports that we have put in place to support your program, support your work. As Joe mentioned, the CONCASE has a very important support, which is a mentoring program, and which the CSD absolutely supports. And we've also partnered with CAS to provide executive coaching. And as Joe mentioned, both programs are distinct, but supportive of one another and provide different levels of support. This year through CAS, we have 14 coaches supporting special education leaders across the state, and really an all-star cast of coaches and mentors, including retired, or should I say semi-retired directors, and even a former member of the Bureau of Special Education. For more information about this program, please contact Marie Glowski from CAS or Jay Brown, and I wanted to thank them both for their outstanding work. Change slide. We also have an exciting initiative that we're kicking off this year called Aspiring Special Education Leadership Program. You've heard me speak about this in the past. This program will support prospective special education leaders to prepare them for the role of special education director or pupil services. We have a successful model in place and will soon begin our work with the steering committee. And we'll have representatives from general education, which is so critical, and special education organizations across the state. My professional organization called NASD will also be assisting us in supporting our focus groups. Our goal is to launch this program for the start of the 2021 school year, and it will also fit in nicely with the coaching and the mentoring programs for new directors once they are in the seat. Please contact Andrea Burnell for additional information. Change slide. I would also like to remind you that you all have a CSD supported district level subscription to Special Education Connection, which provides every district with web-based resources on special education requirements. News and COVID-19 related topics are available to support your ongoing efforts. There is contact information included in this slide if you have any questions. And Natalie Jones is a point of contact for the service within the Bureau. Change slide. The last resource I wanted to mention this morning is our Assistive Technology package for our LEA cohorts, part of General Monitoring and Supervision System. The BSE continues to partner with New England Assistive Technology, otherwise known as NEAT, Center at Oak Hill. This provides district access to AT services, NEAT membership, and expanded subscription based on your cohort identification. Please change slide. Our goal is to support your efforts to build capacity and ensure best practices for assistive technology and educational technology, which result in improved student outcomes. For more information regarding your district supports, please contact Nicole Feeney at NEAT or Tom Boudreau within the Bureau. If you are not certain which cohort you are in, please click on the link on the previous slide and you'll be able to find out directly from the website. Please change slide. At this time, I would like to ask Anna Wittig, past president of CAPSEF, to say a few words. Anna?
Hi, everyone. As Brian said, I'm Anna Wittig. I'm the past president of CAPSEF. Karen Helene, who is our current president, had a conflict today, so I've been elected to say a few words. And I just wanted to give a very quick overview of CAPSEF's involvement and efforts throughout this pandemic and in general. We have been meeting as a board. CAPSEF board has been meeting every week. We continue to meet with the State Department of Education, specifically with Brian, Colleen, and Dory on every other week to collaborate. And we're very, very grateful for that collaboration. All three, Brian, Colleen, and Dory, has been very, very helpful in hearing the challenges and advocating to address the concerns. CAPSEF has been partnering with the CONCASE and other stakeholders, especially during this pandemic, to truly provide the best possible education for our mutual students. Because after all, that is our goal, as Jane and Joe spoke. Our PD committee has been developing a webinar series to address current topics that would help teachers, paraprofessional support staff, leaders throughout this process, throughout this pandemic, and in general, just to help support. And our conference, annual conference, will also be virtual, which will be held in March. Our mentoring and support program is meant to really support the new directors and mentor them as they come into the field or maybe join the private sector, but also to provide assistance to all of us, including assistance with the accreditation process. And if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us. The website, CAPSEF's website, is www.capsef.org. And we hope to see you at our next forum on 10/21 at noon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. And I would also like to thank CAPSEF for their contributions to various guidance documents that were generated during the pandemic. Your unique perspective and experience with that population has been instrumental in that work. So thank you very much, Anna.
You're very welcome. We appreciate that, giving the input.
Change slide, please. So I want to let you know that we're here to support the challenges that you're facing, and we will continue to do so. Over the last several months, as you know, there's been a series of guidance documents and resources, and we've been engaging in both formal and informal ways of seeking input. Once again, I have to thank my team for their work around the clock and just tireless efforts to be able to put resources out as quickly as possible. Just to remind you, the first link there is a direct link to all of our resources, which can be found on our website. And during the first few months of the school year, we really would like to focus on providing you with technical assistance and support as you're implementing previous guidance and facing challenges with the opening of school. If you are, some schools have already, and districts have taken advantage of this with calls directly with their teams. And if you are interested in a technical assistance call, please don't hesitate to contact us to schedule a meeting. We'll make sure that the right individuals from our department are there, as well as any of our partners to assist you. To do so, you can email Mildred Pagan on the screen there, and just in the subject line, if you could add COVID-19 technical assistance. Change slide. At this point, I would like to introduce my colleagues, Eric Portulis and Sarah Moon from the RESC Alliance, to share a few words with you.
Thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure to greet you guys this morning, the special ed directors and special education colleagues. I am Eric Portulis. I'm the Director of Pupil Services here at ACES. I'm going to give a shout out to Ginny Tagliatella, one of our principals at our village and EIBI school, where I recycled this slide from her presentation. And certainly we know that our work today in this world of COVID is very different than it's ever been before. And we see lots of wonderful things that are happening through the programs we run and the services and the presentations that I've been part of and seen various districts and all the work that's happening. And it's wonderful to see. Next slide, please. What I'd like to do is just kind of orient to a few of the projects that are continuing to be worked on between us and CERC. And we continue to collaborate with the CSDE and Brian and the consultants, as well as CERC, to make sure that we're providing quality training and supports to the districts. A number of the initiatives that we've been continuing to focus on in the 2020-2021 school year do include the facilitated strategic planning meetings, which were first announced this past June as part of the rollout of the new IEP. And Deb Richards, who is retired but has continued to work with us as a project manager associated with this as well. So we're very excited to continue to have her support and guidance and background expertise. We will be looking to offer these sessions regionally at each of the RESCs, and dates will be announced fairly soon as we're just sorting out some of the details with the various providers. Life Course, I wanted to bring up as a point of reference that we are continuing to run those. So we have ambassadors at each of the RESCs and at CERC, and then we're continuing to run these sessions. So a flyer will be coming up soon announcing those dates. We will be running those virtually for the most part of the year, unless we are able to get to in-person sessions later on this year. These trainings are open to school-based staff and parents. And so it's really something I would wanted to highlight and bring attention to as we think and hope to see more parents attending the sessions where we can anticipate that they will be looking to work with their school staff on developing life course planning opportunities for their child. Two of the leadership initiatives that have been underway and are again being focused on this year include, again, a combination of staff from CERC and the RESCs. The PPT leadership, or PPT-LI, has four cohorts running this year and is modeled as a higher level of training for staff who are or soon will be in the role of facilitating PPTs. And participants complete a capstone project as part of their participation in this series. The 8-day PPT leadership series is underway again this year. Our focus right now is on closing out those groups that we started last year. So a couple of those sessions are underway and will be scheduled through the remainder of this year. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Moon from Learn, who's going to talk about a few really important initiatives as well. Next slide, please.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Sarah Moon, Director of Special Services at Learn. Happy to be with all of you this morning, even if we can't see you. I wanted to just touch on a couple of other initiatives that the RESC Alliance is partnering with the State Department to continue with this year. The first one is the Communities of Practice, which are currently running for the speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, behavior analysts, social workers, school psychologists, and this year, actually just this month, we're adding a group for the teachers of the deaf. The first meeting for that group is happening later this month. These groups are really, the intention of these groups is to help build the capacity of these groups to provide excellent high quality services for our Connecticut students and to provide learning opportunities in the specialty areas that these people work in. So the meetings are occurring virtually. They're easy to access. They are happening either weekly or bi-weekly. And every month a new flyer gets pushed out to all of you through Concase so that you can share this with your staff. Also just wanted to take a quick moment on this to mention that the facilitators of these groups do share on a regular basis that any information that's shared during these meetings that might lead providers to feel like they're considering a change in practice, that it's really imperative that they bring that information back to their district administrators and have those conversations at the district levels before making any kinds of changes or thinking through that further. The second bullet here is speech and language pathology technical assistance. So I'm working closely with Brian and Jay Brown, who is our related services educational consultant at the state, to provide questions around technical assistance in the area of speech and language. And that is continuing this year, so feel free to reach out. And if I don't know the answer, I will try to find it for you. And then the final is just an update on the speech and language guidance document, the guidelines. So COVID brought that to a screeching halt, pause, whatever you want to call it. And over the summer, we got up and running with that again. We do have a chapter that's ready to be shared with the work group to give feedback on. And the plan for the speech and language guidelines is hopefully to have a fully drafted version for the work group to provide feedback on by February and have a final draft to the State Department hopefully in May for further vetting and revision. I know there's a lot of speech pathologists eagerly awaiting some updated guidelines. So thank you all for having me today, and we are ready for the next slide. Back to Eric.
Thanks, Sarah. Just a couple of last things that I'll highlight here. So last year we had attempted to host as a RESC Alliance conference and bring a nationally recognized presenter, Jessica Sprick, to talk about truancy and school avoidance. As with all things COVID last year, we had to cancel. So we have rescheduled those dates. Unfortunately, we were not able to open up for additional attendance, but we're hoping that this is a beginning of other opportunities that we can offer. As well as a service that we at the RESC want to be able to provide to each of you is customizable regional professional development for special education needs. You can certainly contact any one of us at your RESC to have a further discussion about that. We have had some discussions looking at social emotional learning and would like to see that that's our next project that we take on this year. So as always, I want to thank each of you for choosing to work with your RESCs. We appreciate the work that you are doing on behalf of your students and look to continue to support you the best that we can, and wish you a safe and productive school year. And our last two slides are just the contact information in case you don't have that already. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric and Sarah. I'm so grateful for our ongoing partnership with the RESC Alliance and look forward to the continued collaboration with your directors as they share their insights and expertise and support the Bureau's initiatives. Thank you so much. I'll end my brief updates with you today by relaying our genuine excitement about our recent announcement regarding CT-SEDS, which is our new statewide special education data system. As you know, CSDE has entered into a partnership with Public Consulting Group, PCG, and this comprehensive system will support our new and improved and adaptive IEP and so much more. We have already begun our work on the specifications of the system and will continue to build CT-SEDS throughout the course of the year. We have an amazing internal team working on this, and we're also beginning to establish external stakeholder groups to inform the process. We have an LEA advisory group as well as a data manager advisory group, and we'll be reaching out to parents and students and all users of this system. You can also expect to receive consistent communication and updates from the department and regional sessions designed to both receive your input and inform our training plan moving forward. Very exciting work. Currently, we're working on a brief demo of some of the features of the system. The demo is not the CT-SED system itself, as we'll be completing that through the rest of the year, but rather we'll give you an idea of some of the features of the program. In addition to the IEP system, we will have a user dashboard specific to your role, a document repository, service delivery tracker, service plans, student transfer process, and modules including SRBI or MTSS, 504, gifted and talented, the front end of the Medicaid reimbursement process, and include all required data collections and so much more. That's an exhaustive list, I know. And this will all be at no cost to the districts. Our goal is to provide a system that will result in increased efficiencies for you, increased compliance, and high quality IEPs for your district and your students. During the 21-22 school year, we will pilot the system, and during the 22-23 school year, we'll be implementing the system statewide. If you have any questions early on in this process, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. You can also email Mildred Pagan, and please put in the subject line CT SEDS for all questions related. And we'll do our best to get back to you as soon as possible, and also generate frequently asked questions documents and so forth to be able to support your inquiries as we build the system. Next slide, Greg. So least restrictive environment, as we all know, each student who is eligible for special education services is entitled under state and federal law to receive FAPE in the LRE. We're all familiar with Chapter 6 in our Procedures and Practices Manual, and we continue to be vigilant to ensure students' needs are individualized, not based on any category or disability or diagnosis, and are first considered within the general education environment, of course with supplementary aids and services. As special education leaders, we have new challenges with regard to this concept, and it's safe to say that the general education environment has certainly changed. CSDE is committed to supporting districts in their efforts around LRE. Next slide, please. We've partnered with Francis Stetson to build our capacity within the cadre of trainers that are being prepared to support your work. And during the fall and early winter, we will be offering through Francis statewide sessions on important concepts. Actually, Greg, could you back up one more slide? I just wanted folks to be able to read those statewide sessions that we're rolling out, quality standards, the role of the principal, district level strategies for inclusive schools, effective staffing and scheduling, and instructional strategies. So please stay tuned for dates and times for these upcoming sessions, and we will be following up with districts with more individualized support after those sessions take place across our state. And change the slide, just my contact information there, and one more slide. It is my absolute pleasure now to introduce Dr. Francis Stetson. You are in for an absolute treat today. I truly believe that the challenges we are facing together bring new opportunities in the world of special education, new opportunities to deliver high quality, specialized, designed instruction and related services to our students in ways that we perhaps could not imagine previously or even consider a year ago. We have an opportunity to redefine special education and positive impacts for student outcomes. Dr. Stetson is with us this morning, who is a longtime friend and colleague of the state of Connecticut, has done instrumental work to support the PJ settlement, and is known across the country for her work in the field of special education. Francis has too many accomplishments to mention this morning, but it's just interesting to note that she began her career teaching students with visual disabilities, and has also worked for the Texas Education Agency addressing the needs of students with severe disabilities. During 7 years in Washington, D.C., Dr. Stetson conducted research and national training for the U.S. Department of Education and the Office of Civil Rights on least restrictive environment and inclusion. She's also authored the first report to Congress regarding IDEA. Dr. Stetson will bring us a national perspective to special education leadership and progress during the times of COVID-19 and speak about our responsibilities and the opportunities that we have in front of us. A wonderful recipe for lemonade. Without further ado, Dr. Stetson, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Brian. Well, welcome everybody to Texas. When I get to work with you folks in in Connecticut, it's like a homecoming. I imagine I know a number of you in the audience, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in person. I have to tell you right now in Texas, it's 84 degrees. And we're so excited because this means we get to put on our sweaters. Now, I know that in Connecticut, that would be a bizarre thought, but in Texas, that's actually cool weather. So it's a pleasure to be with you today. We're going to have a session, I hope, that will lift hearts as well as create a new do list for us, if you will. And I'm going to now go to my slides, and we'll begin by, I've got to tell you, I have to begin by telling you my math consultant, who is wonderful, is just always sending me funny things. And not that there's much to laugh about, but she had sent me a funny little to do here, and I have it on your screen. If 2020 was a math problem, if you're going down, here it is, if you're going down a river at 2 miles an hour and your canoe loses a wheel, how much pancake mix would you need to reshingle your roof? I love that. I think that is exactly what all of us in this audience probably feel, not to make light of what we are all going through and experiencing and the losses we've had. But it seems like every time there's something that comes up, it's hard to understand it even. It's hard to see the logic in it. So today, and I want to remind you, you can download your handout that I've got lots and lots of tools and things to share with you. And I've also put myself a reminder, just as Steve told you, if you'll put in your questions, if you have any, I'd love to receive them. And given the time today, what I'll probably do is I will send back written responses to your questions, and they can be shared with everyone. So I look forward to seeing your questions for today. So let's get started. And I want to tell you the basis for a lot of our conversation this morning is around the newest literature. And of course, you're not surprised, crisis leadership. And I found it very, very reinforcing and very helpful. And it actually provides some clear pathways forward. And it talks about how when you're a leader in times of crisis, it really does tend to define who we are and how we approach problems and how we generate solutions. But I also know that one of the main characteristics in all the reading that I did is that we have to be especially strong in communicating to our stakeholders at all levels. So with that in mind, I wanted to talk, just so we have a kind of framework together, is that when I told my sister I was going to be doing a workshop for administrators on how to make lemonade, or we needed to make lemonade, she said, well, you certainly have plenty of lemons to make the lemonade. And that's true. And on the screen, we have just a few of those that you or I would never have thought of a year and a half ago, never imagined it, even a year ago. And every one of these that we put on the screen has arisen at a time that our children that we work with and serve are perhaps the most vulnerable in many ways that they've ever been. And so it really calls for the leadership that we must have in order to promote the equity and the excellence that we want in all of our schools. So one of the things that I would say is, on a lighter note, if we could be light just a minute, that is that I am shocked at all of this. I never thought Neiman Marcus would go bankrupt, and it has. And for a Texas woman, that's a serious problem. Also, the scarcity of toilet paper. I realized by walking in my garage yesterday that I need to stop buying it, because I'm going to have to build an addition onto the garage if I don't stop. But whoever thought that we would be facing the possibility of a scarcity of that essential element? I'll admit, the first shopping trip I took, I went to the liquor store to get more vodka. I wasn't even interested in toilet paper. And the fact that I've resorted to such online shopping that my neighbors are suspicious that I'm having an affair with a FedEx delivery man. So I have had one package after another delivered. And the other thing that I have developed, and I wonder about you as well, do you find that you're more sleepy? I've developed the sleeping habits of a puppy. I have a puppy, and I want to show you the picture of one of my little saving graces. There she is. Her name is Bailey. And I noticed that Bailey and I take a nap about 11 o'clock in the morning, and again about 2, and then again about 5. So now I'm really worried about myself because I've turned into a canine instead of a human. But with that aside, one of the things that I want to tell you how much I respect all of you and what you've done. I am emotional about this, that you and your colleagues across this country were able to go from a Wednesday to a Friday, from physical classrooms back in whenever you did this, January, February, March. For most of us, it was March. From physical classrooms and everything we knew to distance learning overnight. And many questions were, what is a Zoom? And what does it mean to screen share? So there have been incredible implications for you and what you have to do in leading your fellow educators. It has impacted every aspect of our work, to even looking more specifically at our necessary partnerships with the home in making this all possible. So we haven't, you actually pulled off a miracle, and you are doing that today. I share a little bit of your pain. Our firm went from overbooked and happy, and we were busy, and we were making United Airlines a richer company than they were because we were flying everywhere. And suddenly, as an education consulting firm, schools were closed. And it requires, for all of us, and it required a 180-degree shift in our delivery of how we support staff and how we support our clients, and the specter of dangerous travel. And suddenly, and I know you share this as well, suddenly when we thought we had strong skills, we realized that our new IEP for ourselves was pages long of the techniques and technologies that we knew nothing about. So one of the things that I wanted to bring us back to is I think it's important to reflect on what we've been through and what we're going through. But I also think, as we now think of our own roles, is that as Womack says, leaders flourish in times of crisis. We will get through it. We will be stronger on the other side. I am going to talk a little bit today about the things that we have learned that may have had the capacity to shake our world in terms of our own field of interest. There are 3 things that I want to talk about, and we have a short period of time, and so we're going to hustle through it. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the literature review that I've done about crisis leadership, because I think it is essential for us to be grounded in what those leadership skills look like. The second big piece, the big chunk, is looking at LRE, least restrictive environment, and inclusion as a current exemplar of the need for strong leaders and some of the techniques and strategies that are important. The last thing I want to do is leave you with a recipe for lemonade and some things that I think that I have found in the last several months that have helped me connect better with the people that I work with that may help you as well. So with that in mind, let's look quickly at what our crisis has surfaced for us. The crisis has surfaced the opportunity for us to rethink and consider how critical the issue is of equal access. We have families that have a small, may have their cell phone. We have families and they have 5 children. We have children without any technology at all, or without the bandwidth or the internet service to support them. This is going to play out as a critical issue for us as we return back to school full time and we are happy with the level of service we're providing through virtual learning as well as personal learning. But we have got to rethink what that means for equal access. And it makes me even more committed, as I know you are, to the equal access to the general curriculum and to the general education classroom. It is absolutely essential. Another thing that we have an opportunity for, and it certainly surfaced, is the need to build technologically savvy educators. I don't know about you, but I have a number of colleagues that have been hiding from this successfully for quite some time, and now there is no hiding. And this is really important. I don't know if you share my feelings, I bet you do. And I hate to say this out loud because it's worrisome, so worrisome. But when you observe children with more significant disabilities who are trying to be successful through distance learning and some of the options or the shorter days and so on, we really are realizing again that there is a real gulf between what we were able to provide and what we currently are for many of our youngsters who have significant cognitive disabilities and other disabilities as well, behavioral disabilities, for example. The other thing that I think has happened is that it has changed some of the basic idea reassurances and assurances. As our world is upside down when you want to talk about inclusion for some of our schools. What does that mean for us now, and how do we accomplish it? So really enormous kinds of issues that you and I are facing, that this pandemic has surfaced. What it brings us back to is the necessity for really strong and courageous leadership. And so, you know, Churchill's been quoted quite a lot recently, and I will say that I love the statement that he made to other leaders and to the country during the World Wars and World War II is never waste a good crisis. And I think that in my own work, and I'll bet in yours too, you can sit down right now and list the 4, 5, 6, 10 maybe lessons we've learned that we're going to carry forward. So one of the things we want to do is begin to look at those and peel those back. So with a great crisis around us, we've got some things to do. So let's talk now about, we've admired the need for the strong leadership, but we've also need to look at some of our opportunities and what's, this is from the Harvard Business Review. And I find that these are true. I'll let you glance at them. I think we find new talent in our teams. I think we find people that maybe have been overlooked who are really stronger than we thought. There are new levels of cooperation in many ways that have brought partners together that never worked together before in education. And we've learned that we cannot be slow in our problem solving. We have to be extremely rapid. So I want to make this the message of my session all the way up to the end, when we'll close with something that I hope will bring us all some renewal and revitalization. But I'd like to now talk about our current challenges, and one of the things is looking at the status of inclusion today. I would love for you, please, there's a poll that is being posted and you have a chance to respond. And so we're going to put this up and you're going to be able to respond quickly, please. And then we'll come back and look at the results. This is asking us to look now, where are we now? All right. Could we look at the results, or do we have them yet, Greg?
We do have the results. They are coming on screen, and most folks should see them.
Well, I don't see them.
My apologies. Most folks should see them now.
I hated to mention that, but oh, okay. You all are in a good place in my audience today. Excellent. Phenomenal. All right. Well, you are in a good place. You have strong sense of shared responsibility, solid tier 1, and staffing decisions are made on the basis of student needs. And I'm really pleased to see that, because that means that you are way far ahead of most of the rest of the country. Because despite your progress, you will know that that we keep falling back. We keep losing that sustainability of inclusive practices. And I know even in your state of Connecticut, I think one of the reasons that we are back to work with you is because some of your indicators of least restrictive environment have slipped in the last several years. And so it's really important to really take our most candid and honest impressions of our practices and see where we can improve. For those of you who could serve as model sites, phenomenal. But I have to say, there's some of us that are losing some ground for a variety of reasons, not to mention the serious situations we're going through now. So let me share with you, on the basis of our work across the country over quite some time, but this is the most recent concerns that we see. I brought those to you. And I'm going to also say to you, before I even begin this, that one of the reasons that I really love Connecticut is you all are smart folks. You're really, really smart, and you tend to be systems thinkers. One of the things, as we begun working with you again, that I would like to say to you now, and then I will add to it as we go through, is one, you have originally established some really solid practices across the state. In my opinion, part of our challenge right now in Connecticut is not building the new practices, but sustaining those that were there in the first place, or going back and revising them. The second thing that I want to say is, and I'm excited about it, I could not have said this to you 15 years ago, 12 years ago when I was here, but the practices we brought you have truly proven across the country to make an important difference in the data and the practice and the outcomes for youngsters with disabilities in inclusive settings. So I am even more confident than I was when I first met some of you that these are really important. Part of what I'd like to say to you, though, is that we have continued to evolve. And while much of this may look the same, I'm going to be pointing out the new features that are informed by what we're seeing as practice in the schools today. So the first concern is, and something that you all feel pretty strongly about, which I'm so pleased with, is that sense of shared responsibility across your schools. The importance of courage, I think, in leaders. I can't overstate this. Some of you are new leaders. Some of you are very established. I'm going to borrow from the work of Brene Brown, and I'm going to say that many of the issues that are impacting schools that we're working with today truly require a higher level of leadership courage when articulating that a shared responsibility for all students is a critical, non-negotiable in your school system or in your school. Recently, I think the last 5 calls I've taken this last week have been from superintendents or directors who have talked about the over-referrals, suddenly the rise of referrals, the rise in requests for more staff, and so on, which really is an indicator that if a child is experiencing difficulty, we're more quickly moving them, thinking there's another place for them rather than the general education classroom. So if some of the data trends in Connecticut are proving to be accurate, then that is happening for some of your schools as well. So I'm going to show you, out of all these quotes from Brene Brown, who's famous, and she is a professor at the University of Houston here, and I've heard her speak more than once. She's phenomenal. I love that second phrase, today I choose courage over comfort. And I'm going to choose that today as well. And I want to call on us to think about where we have gaps, where we need to shore up our practice, and where we need to improve. If leaders are not saying these difficult things, then many times it's not happening in the classroom. And you know that. So I want to remind us all that maybe as we go through this presentation, if it would be helpful, you might jot down a little note for yourselves that would talk about what you might need to go back and reinforce or introduce. So I've put something here for you. Since I saw you, we'd done quite a bit of work in the San Francisco schools. And it was there that we decided that one of the things that was most impactful was for the school district to create a set of guiding principles regarding inclusive education. Not for permission at the board level, because that's a federal and state requirement, but for the board to adopt bedrock beliefs that can be published on the website. I cannot overstate, and it's not just San Francisco, there's many districts that have done this now, that when you get down to the granular level and talk with teachers, talk with parents, they very often refer back to the guiding principles and how important that is. And you know, our board adopted them and so on and so forth. So I've given you a sample of that. Maybe a tool that would be really helpful for you in there. Now, this I think is really important because we have to be careful about what the stated values are in our system, because they influence, and I love this phrase at the bottom, they set the standard for personal and organizational behavior. Now, in most districts that we go in today, still there is confusion about the vision of inclusion and the definition of inclusion. And so this is a very important thing. If you don't have one, you need to have a vision that describes your position on it, and the steps are the necessary steps. We've got many tools to help you with this. We've done it over and over and over again. If you would find it helpful, we are sharing some in our tools today, and we'll share more. Are your faculty consistently understanding the terms of inclusion? Or do they define it, some of them, as co-teaching? Or do they define it as we're all in the general ed classroom together? Both answers are wrong. Now, this one I cannot overstate. Here's the status as we see it across most of the districts we're working in right now. The level of focused instructional planning is missing. We've become so used to an IEP meeting that we are shortchanging the opportunity for really drilling down and looking at the individual student and making the best decisions. And one of the things that I would tell you is really a concern for us is that very often the bedrock effective practices that you should see in every single classroom in a building, as I was asking you in your survey, are not present. So we're referring youngsters who never really had very strong tier 1 instruction. Now, contrary to your state, the average, when I ask curriculum and instruction directors to tell me what they put percentage of their classrooms they believe really solid tier 1 practices are in place for the students, the average answer is around 10%, and that's one of their highest priorities. Now, let me take you to our new continuum. We've had it about a year. You know, you always change and revise things, but look at this new continuum. Tier 1 is huge. It's the biggest circle. Research-based strategies available for all. And I want to make sure that we understand that that's a general education responsibility. Certainly, special ed teachers need to implement tier 1 instruction as appropriate in their classrooms. But if that's not available in the classroom, as I had to tell an entire state recently, it's not your special ed services. It's the lack of solid tier 1 strategies first inside the general education classroom. You brought me here to work with one department, and really we need to work across all departments around curriculum and instruction. Now we're going to get into these other circles later, but instead of now, this is the partnership, this is the special ed part of the continuum. Notice that it says in partnership with, because there is often a tendency to say, well, okay, we did our part, now the youngster is yours. So we want to articulate these stronger definitions. And by the way, if you remember us from last time when we were here in the state, we've changed a couple of these pretty significantly, and you'll see those in a minute. And I've given you a very lengthy resource in your handout too. So I want all educators to be strong in Tier 1. We know what it looks like, but frankly, where is it? And in any classroom where it doesn't exist inside the general ed classroom, we're going to have children that are struggling to learn, and we're going to possibly see them as referrals or far behind when they reach us. Now, I want to quickly mention that one of the most earth-shattering, fabulous studies that I've read in a while is the Hechinger report that in 2017 had the statement that we should expect that 90% of all students with disabilities should be able to master on grade level content. What? When I said that to the first time I spoke to a group of superintendents, I had an uproar in the room. Show me, how is that even possible? Well, before I even go further with this to show you how I described it, I want to also say that one of the biggest problems we have right now is we have still low expectations for children with disabilities. We immediately look to see what we could change rather than how we could enhance instruction around on grade level instruction in many of our classrooms. The other thing that you know is John Hattie, and you know him because, and if you don't, you want to run out and buy his books on visible learning, because this is the general education and curriculum has been Bible for some time now. And he's the researcher that's looked at all strategies and looked at the effect size to see, do they make a difference in children's learning or not? And he maintains that we've been spending a lot of time on strategies that don't work, and we're not really emphasizing as we must in our professional development sessions, those strategies that are proven to have high effect size. So I would even point out that his one of his lists has interventions for the children with disabilities and for children with learning disabilities are high effects when you break down information, concrete, typically more visual, so on and so forth. That has a high effect size. So that's a selling point for our partners in general education. But let me quickly just show you how I have explained it to others who said, how is it possible? 90% of children with an IEP have the capacity to master on grade level content. Okay, notice, whoops, I went too soon. Let's see here. Here you go. Notice that the highest percentage still, and has always been, of children with an IEP identified in special ed are children with specific learning disabilities. For the most part, what is the best curriculum is the general education curriculum. Also, the next highest are children with speech and language impairments. This is federal data from the 40th annual report. So this is, but the combined amount of that is over 50%. And then other health impaired is the next big chunk. And so I would argue that for most of those youngsters, if not all of them, with appropriate techniques and strategies and scaffolding, they would be able to be highly successful in the on-grade level curriculum. Now, children with autism, we know it's a spectrum for a reason, certainly not all, but a portion of those youngsters would be absolutely appropriate. The other piece that I think is important is as you move further, we have the children with intellectual disabilities. Even if you counted that, all 6.9%, which I wouldn't do if I wanted to keep high expectations, that doesn't even come up to the other 10% of youngsters that you might consider could not be mastering the on-grade level curriculum. The other issue is emotional disturbance. And the sad part about those youngsters, as you know, is that it's often not the cognitive ability at all, but the behaviors that get in the way, but are often capable of doing at or above grade level work. So I won't continue with this, but I think one of our biggest challenges now as leaders is to increase significantly the expectation of success in the general curriculum, and to add another caveat, and to not look for, and to look for really strong scaffolds or accommodations that make that possible. Because that's another issue that I'm seeing in classrooms we'll talk about in a minute, that gives us lots of hope for better success. So what is the status of Tier 1 in your schools? You've told me it's very good, that many of you either strongly agree or agree that it's in place. Count your lucky stars, because that's very often not is what is the case in many of our schools today. I get goosebumps when I quote this phrase, but from something that was written some years back about multi-tiered systems of support. We should not find, a child shall not be found eligible for and in need of special education on the basis of poor instruction in the general education classroom. So my point here as leaders is we have got to have a seat at the table. We have to have the solid partnership under hopefully the same umbrella in our organizational chart, in our district and in our schools, around shared responsibility for quality instruction for all. So this is an enormous, I think, opportunity for us that waits ahead. I love the last phrase here. Teaching is the intentional act of creating those conditions under which children learn a great deal. We've got to get really even more intentional because our achievement gap continues. All right. Now, therefore, and many of you who, of course, are familiar with our Stetson approach for inclusive practices know that we have to flip 180 degrees the decision process so that we focus on instructional needs first, then the staffing. So if I don't know what support needs the individual student needs, then I am not able to come up with the right formula for the right personal support or staffing where it's needed. So with that in mind, one of the, this form should be very familiar to some of you. This is the format that we believe is the best one to use, particularly for youngsters who have spent a good portion of their time outside of the general education classroom. Because the first thing you want to do is listing their IEP goals down the left side across the top. You want to say, what are the classrooms as they're going in the 3rd grade class? Well, we have opening, we have language arts block, we do reading, we do this, we do that. And laying out in a concrete sequential way the general education opportunities or sequence or schedule. And then here is the critical question. Where are the opportunities to address this student's instructional or behavioral goals in the general class? When you look at your district and you see that you have some youngsters who have really not moved out of the quote unquote pull out settings, pull this format out and get a general ed and a special ed teacher together and ask them to look for the opportunities. With that having been done, here is our revised format that's done one child at a time, typically one time a year, that is going to take into consideration first the instructional supports that are needed throughout the day for the various courses, and then the staffing that's needed. So when it says tool, that means you have the actual Word tool in your packet or in your downloads so that you can adjust it if you wish. But I want to show you that there are a number of adjustments across the top. But here is the first question you have to ask. Can the student participate in the lesson as it's designed? Without good instruction, without everybody and then you know how many times you see whole group instruction and everybody gets the same. Can the student participate as designed? For many of our students, the answer should be yes. Because it's not every subject or every learner objective that is needed for something different. If the answer is no, if he cannot participate as designed, then move along, because what can you do first? Now this is new, to adjust good Tier 1 instruction. Maybe the teacher has real deficits in classroom management. that if those were addressed, and of course you would know that from your functional and behavioral analysis and so on, need to be placed in that general ed classroom to strengthen it. If that's not sufficient, then is an accommodation helpful? Sadly, when I began my career a long time ago, one of the things we were not doing well with was really using good and effective accommodations. We're still not doing that in many, many of our classrooms. So emphasizing the right accommodation, not 15 of them, not the ones that we had back in 3rd grade, but the 1 or 2 that are most powerful and most effective for this individual student in that subject. And only then do we go to a curricular modification. Now, we've also added here, teachers have improved this for us over the years. We also have added the consideration, as you do, for assistive technology, and then behavioral interventions if they're needed. Now, once that is done, you will remember, and by the way, if you want to glance down, I'm really proud of something that we've done. We used to say, well, okay, we'll modify. And then we just turned ourselves loose looking at the general curriculum and making decisions about what we would change. Notice that we have identified a hierarchy of modifications, going from just partial modification of the on-grade level content all the way down to a functional objective. I think this is really very beneficial for our work, is to fine-tune how we modify. Okay, saving those last decisions about staffing for later. So here they are in a simple chart. You can download this, post it in your teacher planning rooms. You can put it in your conference room when you meet with parents. But here are the questions in a sequential order. These are the exact same questions. And never, ever answer question number 7 first, because we'll over support or we'll have the support in the wrong place typically. So this is really important to recognize that we do the instructional decision making first. Now, I've put some tools in here for you. We created this for the state of Hawaii. We have been working with them for the last 2 years. They're doing great work. They have very challenging goals to meet in LRE. And so we created a learning walk because we have to get down to the level of what's happening in the classroom. And so this is a learning walk that we use. I thought you'd like to have it. It's very simplistic, but we can put it, you can drop it onto your Kindle or your whatever device you have, and automatically it sums and creates your charts for the student progress. So if you're interested in that, I think you might like to look at it. I know you have your own state version probably, but there's one for you as well. Here's an accommodations rubric. Is the child even using the accommodation? Is it effective? Is it stigmatizing, and so on? And teachers, for heaven's sakes, once a year, let's look at that list of accommodations we have and put it through a rigorous level of scrutiny so that we're not carrying forward ineffective accommodations and making it so difficult for the general ed teacher. I just put this together the other day. I thought you might like to have it. You may have one of your own. But again, when you go in a classroom and you ask the general ed teacher and or the special ed teacher what accommodations are listed in the IEP, I have to brace myself for the answer sometime, which is, oh, I don't know. We reviewed it at the beginning of the year, or my special ed teacher hasn't really explained them to me yet, or that particular information is in the office for the special ed director. So this would be a way for conducting, I think what gets measured gets done. So let's start doing audits for accommodations. Are they being done and are they effective? So yet another thing to help us out. All right, one of the ahas that I've had, and I'm so glad I keep having them. I think that's one of the reasons that I think these are new opportunities to learn for all of us in what we're experiencing now, is that we've got to really, really look at the money that we put into staffing. It's not the money, but it's where do our critical resources go and are they going in the right place? And so last summer, before all this, I had a stack of requests from superintendent groups to come and talk to them about, most typically, the rise of paraeducators in schools and the request for paraeducator staffing. And so, you know, now in the country, we have thousands more paraeducators than we do teachers in special education. And so I started taking that apart. There's a whole other presentation about paraeducators, but I thought about this question that I reminded my administrators to ask. When you're asked for more staff, the first thing you should ask is staff to do what? It's not okay to say, gee, we're just worn out at the end of the day, or, well, the other school next to us has a better pupil-teacher ratio, or what have you. But to do what? Staff to do what? The answer to that question is on that second form that we looked at, is that you will identify what staff you may need to fulfill those roles. Now, we have been over-relying, I think, on adult proximity for progress in children, and it's not happening for many of our youngsters. So we sometimes have more, we have two adults in the same class for a need that doesn't exist in there for some of our schools. And the other issue is to end the abuse of the use of some of our resources. And I want to be specific here. Co-teachers that are not co-teaching. Co-teachers that have pulled a group to the back of the room. Co-teachers that are doing little study groups. Co-teachers that are not in the room at all. Maybe they're at an IEP meeting or wherever they are. Very often I go into a classroom to see the co-teaching and the partner is missing. So we have some abuses around the decisions about adults in the inclusive classroom. And then certainly with paraeducators. If we're not training paraeducators specifically for the roles they're to play with the specific students they're working with, we are cutting the impact of that resource in half, or maybe even further. So looking at more specifically that staffing question, so that we have the old models, and we need to get rid of the old words. That's my mantra. I said that when I was here before, and now I'm back and I'm saying it again. The old words, push in, pull out. The inclusion class. Oh, we've even labeled inclusion when it should be pervasive, regardless that it is an inclusive decision, regardless of setting, if we've put the child in the general ed classroom first in our considerations. This is a very traditional, of course, continuum. Oh, he's going to the inclusion room. Or in this case, it's a real one from a real district. They actually have what they call med-frag units, when that stands for medically fragile. I'm sure you don't do that in Connecticut, but it's pretty predominant in many other states around the country. Okay, so let's go back to our continuum. We decided to leave those old words off, resource, so on and so forth. And when you use that for planning format, does the student instead need, advanced support? In other words, support provided prior to the student going inside the classroom. We now call it advanced support because we would go in classrooms and see a special ed teacher or parent in the room, and what they were doing for the student or students should have been ready, like the vocabulary bank or the graphic organizer or the chapter outline or the text-to-speech software should have been ready prior to instruction. If they were ready, the adult was not really needed in the classroom. In fact, it was crowd control. Then our in-class support, as all of you know, here are our definitions. And that's, of course, provided inside the general ed classroom. We don't just have co-teaching, but we also have support facilitation. It's less formalized than co-teaching, but still must follow the quality standards. But not every child needs to be in a fully co-taught class for every day of the week. So it gives you some flexibility based on student needs. And then last, rather than call it a place or a label or med-frag, specialized support, support provided in a setting outside of the general ed class. And we know that I would certify you fully inclusive in the sense that If you made your decisions on the basis of that sequence of instructional decisions first, when you reach the staffing decision, if at this time for that individual student, you believe that time outside or support, pardon me, outside of the general ed class is warranted and needed in order for the student to be successful, then if you made your decision on that basis, I say that was an inclusive decision. I know, I'm monkeying with the term. And then of course, no more than a third of our youngsters in the classroom if you're co-teaching, and sometimes we overload those classrooms. So that the last part of that second form has you check which of these types of support are needed. Now, let me tell you that pages 9 through 16 in your handout are something we designed a couple of years ago. It is a much more detailed resource, and it describes all of these resources, or these the terms for the staffing for inclusive schools and the quality standards and so on. So you have that in your packet as well. All right, now, right now, I think the status of inclusive education in Connecticut, and certainly in the work that we're going to be doing with you, is it's not really about working harder. It is about truly making really solid, instructionally based, individual student decisions, and then making the staffing or support decisions that align with that instead of misaligned, and then following through. It is also embedding in your planning right now how you're going to sustain inclusive practices for the future. So very, very important pieces here. Now, in some cases, we've been admiring the problem a long time. You know, because you know your system, and you know what you're doing really well, and you know where you need to shore up, improve, or completely change certain practices. You're pretty busy right now. I absolutely give you a pass in a sense, but I wanted to be careful in this presentation, to be honest with you, that I didn't fail to also set up some challenges for inclusive education. We're supposed to meet that challenge. You're doing the best that you can. When you return full speed and before, begin looking at some of these issues that may be what you're addressing, particularly in your schools and in your district, and develop the plan of action for bringing this up from, let's say, we agree to we strongly agree with each one of them, that you really have those strategies. We are excited about our partnership with the State Department folks and the CERC folks, because they're receiving training on how to implement the step-by-step practices. We'll be working with them to some degree. You have a lot of experts right here in your state, but part of that entails an assessment of where you are, so that you know what you're doing well and where your particular areas of concern are. Now, moving on, I want to say that I said when I put this presentation together, you have more than you is, well, everybody laughs at my Texas expressions, but one I wonder if you use in Connecticut is you have more than you can say grace over right now in terms of your task. And so let's look for a minute as we looked at the things that some of the things that we need to continue to attend to and improve in terms of inclusive practices. Then let's move on to my last little segment here that's really, I think, important. And that is that I've given you my reading list, by the way, in your handout. I read a lot of very brief things that overwhelmingly talk about the importance of communication. And now I want you to remember that we talked about common vision. We talked about mission toward inclusion. We've talked about higher expectations, shared responsibility. They have to come from you as leaders, not from the district, but you as a leader is one very, also the district, but also from you. We need to be talking to our people often. In this crisis right now, my staff that's far-flung all over the place have asked for every Friday for us to be able to have a very short meeting where we connect with each other. Their need for connection and communication, my need for it, has grown exponentially. Use video or Zoom whenever possible were the recommendations that I read. They need to see your face and be authentic and repeat that message often. And then tell the truth, but with optimism. Now, when you look at our own example in our own country of communication around COVID, you can see a lot of things we're doing well and a lot of things we are absolutely violating in terms of standards. And we can see the results of that. So I won't read all of this to you. I thought this was really great, but I'm going back in the time of Churchill to Douglas MacArthur, and to talk about the need to have the confidence and the courage. I want to have you rethink the Brene Brown work, and if you've not read her work, be sure you connect to that. It's very, very important that we do so. So remember, here is the 2 or 3 top ones that I think that we have to be able to talk about honestly. And let me pause a minute and talk about equity and excellence. It's been our firm's belief from the very beginning, we very first were founded, that it's not possible to be excellent unless you have equity. And given that in mind, let's look at the racial issues that we face in our schools today, the lack of cultural proficiency in many cases, the unwelcome learning environments that we have created that impact negatively so many youngsters. This is an opportunity to have those open, honest conversations about the absolute necessity of equity. If we think we're excellent, we're not unless we're equitable too. And so what in our schools do we need to change and to adjust? I want to leave you with something really cool that I've stumbled over. Everybody in our group today knows all about the Kubler-Ross stages of grief. I've applied it personally to work, and I've also, as I know you have too, probably applied to it as personally when you've had an important loss in your life, family, friends, and that we're seeing all around us. One of the things that the readings told me and my own experience is that as leaders, we have to connect with the fact that we have people on our staff that have experienced a serious, terrible loss. Not only in the way things always were, but in a loss of loved ones. And those that are afraid of it as well. So this man, Dr. Kessler, had worked side by side with Kubler-Ross for 30 years. And he has, in his new work, identified a 6th stage of grief. And he says we don't just end with acceptance like we always talked about, but the final stage of this, where you know it's put back together, is when the individual can derive meaning from the loss or the change of circumstance or the change in school. And so I tell you that special educators are really lucky because we all went into our field on the basis of the meaning that it had for us in our lives. That you know the statistics yourself, that many special educators have a person with a disability in their own family or in their acquaintance. So one thing I'm wanting to do with my own staff, and I would see that might be an approach that would be helpful in healing, is to reconnect your staff back to the meaning of the work that we do. We've got a lot to do, but there's a lot of meaning to it. So name your own lemonade. Make a list. I have mine. What did I learn? What have I learned since March 11th, the day I walked out of my office and walked into my home? Name your own lemonade and begin to dream of the new normal, because it really is around the corner. It'll be here before we know it, because certainly time is speeding. If we're wise, we don't go back. We don't go back to the old inclusive practices, the old practices that we had in place around least restrictive environment. Go back and look at your data. Are you satisfied with your data? And if not, what practices can you adjust? Because we need to go forward together. So my readings are here for you, for my crisis leadership, because I know that might be helpful to you. I'll remind you that the Inclusive Schools Network has its new theme. It's the time for inclusion is now, 2020, and there are all kinds of free resources. Please log online and check them out. And let me bring you to my closure. There's no lemon so sour that you can't make something resembling lemonade. I'll tell you something that I took out of my slide last night, and I really shouldn't tell you this. But my slide last night said, I was quoting a famous, well-known comedian, that if life gives you lemons, make lemonade, and then find someone whose life has brought them vodka and make a special kind of lemonade to sort of help you through the process. But I wasn't courageous enough to leave it there. So thank you for what you do as leaders every single day. And I really hope that I get to see you all in person really soon. And I really would love to hear from you. Put in the Q&A, the wherever, the chat, whatever you want. Put your questions and I'll send my answers to you. And CERC and the Department of Ed will post them for you. So it's been a pleasure to be back in Connecticut, even if virtually, and take care of yourselves. And thank you.
First of all, I want to give Francis the biggest round of applause for such an incredible, inspiring talk. Thank you so much, Francis. It was tremendous. I'm sure all of our participants are going to be leaving with some great beliefs, practices, thoughts, as you already have, to help transform the work of our school leaders, our principals, that you are so engaged with in the work on behalf of our students with disabilities. There are so many tools that Francis has allowed us to use. They are embedded in the handout that's going to be on our back to school link, as well as in the that's also in the chat. So Francis, thank you for sharing those tools with us that were embedded in the handouts for us to share with our leaders and educators. All right, so thank you all again, and I'd like to have Brian close out for us.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks to Greg again for supporting this session. Dr. Stetson, your words are so inspiring. Thank you so much. Thank you for your words and your resources, and we look forward to our continued work together in Connecticut. And we're putting our sweaters on for a little bit lower temperatures than 84, but we could definitely relate to the fall weather. I'd just like to end this session and recording by wishing you all well as we move into the month of October. Let's continue to work together to face the challenges of 2020. And as Dr. Stetson had pointed out, with shared responsibility, higher expectations, equity, and excellence. I know that our audience today is ready for that challenge. So be well, everyone, and thank you for all that you do for our students. Take care.